Have you ever wondered why some people just seem to achieve success almost effortlessly? They seem to work less than everyone, yet achieve more, whilst others work tirelessly, hustle and grind, yet never seem to be able to break through. Well, today I want to share a model that has completely changed my life. A model that has allowed me to raise £1 million with just an idea, literally a slideshow. A model that's allowed me to make hundreds of thousands a year from coaching whilst living a very relaxed, regulated, calm, healthy, fulfilled life. And a model that's helped so many of my clients. And the model I've created has come from many of these books, from the Tao Te Ching, the Power of Now, the Kabbalion, and so much more. And I'm going to share the entire model with you today. There's no gatekeeping, no holding back. And when you understand this model, you really understand how manifestation, how creation works. And I'm really excited to share it with you because this is the first time I've shared this publicly, and it's something that I've been brewing on for a long time. So the reason why so many people struggle with their manifestations and their creations is because they're focusing on totally the wrong thing. See, there are 3 planes that we can create from. Let's do that again. Not much different. There's the physical plane. There's the mental plane. And there's the spiritual plane. And those that are struggling with their manifestations, those that are really experiencing linear growth in their life, are focused on the physical plane. And this is the least leverageable plane to create from because it's based on Newtonian laws of physics, very much cause and effect. 1 in equals 1 out. And you can create a level of success from this level. But it's tiring. And it requires it requires effort, it requires grind. And that's where I created most of my success till recently. My nickname at school was actually the machine because I worked harder than everyone else. And creating this level can feel addictive because we get instant feedback. We get instant results often. But it's the least leverageable. And it often leads to burnout, exhaustion. And the reason why most people focus on this plane is because the things that we create in the physical world appear factual. They appear real. They appear like things that we can influence and create. But Neville Goddard says it best. He says, "Do not be concerned with the apparent facts. They are only the shadow of your assumption." So what we create on the physical plane, what we see on the physical plane, the apparent facts. What he sees on the upper lane, the spiritual and mental, he calls the seeming truth, which I'll talk about in a bit. In the first verse of the Tao Te Ching, it talks exactly to this as well. The final part of the verse says, "Ever desireless, one can see the mystery. Ever desiring, one only sees the manifestations. And the mystery itself is a doorway to all understanding." So what that means to me is when we are desireless in the trusting, we see the mystery. When we are desiring and focused on the manifestations and obsessing over the how, obsessing over the results, we only see what Lao Tzu calls the 10,000 things, the things in reality. And in the book of miracles, one of the day's exercises is to look around the room, and everything you see, tell yourself that what I see is in the past. And that is also what we are talking about here. Everything physical that we see, that we can touch, that we can hold, that we can pick up, is actually in the past. Now, it might be quite hard to wrap your head around, but when you understand that, you'll unlock this model. See, if you zoom in to an atom, 0.0001% is actually matter, physical. The other 99.99% is possibility. It's an energetic field from which we can create from. So we've got 1% or less in this physical matter, or 99% of possibility in this field. So when you create and focus on creating from this physical level, you are literally dealing with 1% of possibility, 1% of opportunity. And when you start operating in the spiritual and mental level, we're looking at 99% of possibility. And that is where we manifest from. Everything that we bring into the physical world, into matter, was once in the field, was once in space, was once in this energetic field, this 99% of possibility. And in the Kabbalion, it essentially says everything is mental. So I would argue the spiritual and mental planes are two of the same thing. So therefore, there is actually only one direction of creation, and that is up and down. And our bodies tell us everything about where we're at. And I want you now to just open up your shoulders, open up your heart, and look up. And notice how you feel in the moment that you look up. Imagine looking up into space, looking up into the universe at night and seeing such darkness, just a few stars. Most of it is darkness. And notice the awe and wonder that comes from that. That brings me back to that first verse of the Tao Te Ching. Ever desireless, we see the mysteries. It's like looking up in that wow and that awe and that amazement. And notice how you feel the vibration that you're transmitting when you're looking up. And contrast that to, imagine looking over a bill or a credit card statement and looking at it with fear. Notice what you do with your body. You tighten up, you contract, you tense up, and you get to tension. And that is where the understanding is. In just the simplicity of looking up and looking down, being open with your body and being closed. And when we are operating in this 1%, we are reactive. We are reacting to the circumstances, the apparent facts, the past, as if they were real. And as long as we stay in this plane of reactivity, our future is predictable. Our future is linear. Our past is very much going to dictate our future. When, however, you operate in the 99%, in the mental and the spiritual level, we become resourceful. Or responsible. And we become resourceful because we see so much more. We see so many more opportunities just in the simple act of looking up, in operating in the spiritual and mental level. Because in the spiritual and mental level, there is no limitations. Zero. None. Nada. In the physical level, we are limited by apparent facts. We are limited by the past. But in the future, in the field of possibility, there is no limits. So this, to some degree, above, is where we create from the future. And below is the past. And most people, this line is like up here. So they allow their past to determine their future. And they look at their current circumstances and they allow their past to determine what goals they set, what possibilities they create, what manifestations they bring to life. But those that seem to manifest almost effortlessly, they know that the physical is just a past thought, a past habit being brought into reality. And they know that all of creation comes from the 99%, the spiritual, the mental, from thoughts, from habits. And they use their future to determine their past. So those that are operating a very limited life, they allow their past to determine their present, because the past are the apparent facts, the manifestations, the physical things that we brought into reality, their circumstances. And we look at the circumstances and that impacts how we are in the moment. And then that then determines their future. And a really easy way of understanding if you are caught in that paradigm is looking at your current goals and seeing if they are linear, if they are incremental to what you achieved, say, last year. So say you achieved or earned 100,000 last year and your goal for next year is 120, you're in this limited game. You're playing a limited game where the past is impacting your present and your present is impacting your future. When you play this limitless game where you operate from the 99%, from the field of creativity, the field of possibility, we have our future determine our present, and our present to determine our past. And when you are operating and seeing time from this perspective, nothing is impossible. Because from this future, we can bring anything into reality. It's why when we operate or set goals from this place, we can go from, hey, I earned 100,000 last year, but my goal is to make 1 million next year. Nothing is impossible in the future. And when we set goals from that place, that impacts how we turn up in the present. It impacts what we focus on, what we prioritize, what habits, our boundaries, what we say yes to and no to. And that's actually going to impact our past as well, because our past is what we bring into manifestation. So my invite is to start looking at everything from the opposite way, to see beyond your current circumstances, because your current circumstances are manifestations from the past. They're manifestations from past thought habits, from past physical habits, from past emotional habits. And if you want to break free from any patterns that you've caught yourself in and start creating new results, you have to start operating from this 99%, from the mental and physical plane. You have to start seeing beyond your current reality, beyond the physical, and start to develop trust in the mental, in the spiritual, and start to rewire your beliefs and match that with a frequency, with an emotion and a state of love, of abundance, of peace. And when you marry these two, you will start experiencing huge and rapid growth in your life. You'll start to feel in control. You'll start to feel calm and present and trusting, and trust this sort of divine timing, and know that everything we see is literally in the past. And I want to finish this by reading the 20th verse of the second book of the Tao by Stephen Mitchell. And it says this: the ancient masters didn't worry about the future and didn't regret the past. When they made a mistake, they corrected it and moved on. When they achieved something, they didn't stop to take credit. They scaled the heights, never dizzy, plumbed the depths, unafraid. Wherever they went in the world, they were at home. They realized that the less they knew, the more they understood. Thus they embodied the Tao. How cleanly the master lives, how close to the bone, is total transparency. What you see is what you get. Since she understands that alternative paths are only thoughts, she knows that ultimately there are no mistakes in the universe. What happened is what should have happened. There's no other possibility. This insight allows her to confront her own mistakes as soon as they are pointed out, because they're not personal. She can take full responsibility, correct them, and move on. There's no mental residue, no muss, no fuss. Nor does she stop to take credit for her achievements. Taking credit would never even occur to her, as if the achievement weren't its own reward, as if in the freedom of not knowing, anything were required but the next step. I've got tingles just reading that. It's deeply moving. And what that really means to me, if I really simplify it, is having your intention be the same as your action. Having no space. And Alan Watts says, when there's space, we make a deal with the devil. When we intend to do something and don't act on it straight away, if we say, I'm never going to drink ever again, that's making a deal with the devil. And one of his very famous talks, he talks about how intention and action should be the same spot. He uses his analogy of fighting a bear. He says how to win a fight with a bear is not let him know you're going to punch him. I.e., there's no gap between the intention and the action. Even you can't fool yourself, because there is no thought of, I'm going to punch him. You just punch him. And what that means for me is to live in total presence, to be totally rooted in our hearts. No thought of the future, no regret of the past. Be here now. And that is my goal on how I live. I often forget. But when I'm in that space, life feels effortless. And I move at a speed that feels effortless. Like it says in the Tao Te Ching, the Tao does nothing, believes nothing undone. The Tao does nothing, believes nothing undone. What that also could be translated into is nature doesn't hurry, yet everything's accomplished. And we are no separate from nature. So that is my invite to you, is to see beyond your current reality, to start looking up, to start living in awe and wonder, because that is where all understanding lies, in the mystery, ever desireless, trusting in this divine timing. I hope you've enjoyed this, sending you so much love, and I'll speak to you very soon.